Good morning. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Raymond Curley. I'm an HR data analyst for Chesterfield County Public Schools, and I'm here today to talk to you about CCPS's need for enhanced attrition data tracking and how an attrition data dashboard could assist with policy decision making. So let's start with why this dashboard is needed. Staffing is a critical issue for school systems nationwide and locally. In a nationwide survey, half of principals reported challenges filling teacher vacancies. Additionally, 60% reported that they feel they are struggling to fill non-teaching positions. Another survey showed that a third of educators plan to leave their role before the start of the next school year. Chesterfield County Public Schools started the current school year with over 200 vacancies. Neighboring districts, such as Richmond, reported some of the same issues. RPS reported 176 teaching vacancies during the summer of 2022. To the north, Henrico County Public Schools reported 200 teacher vacancies during the same time period. They also reported that they had over 50 bus driving vacancies. The current attrition tracking process within CCPS does not address the real-world issues with retention and staffing. For data to be useful, metrics need to be identified, tracked, analyzed, and then used to resolve problems. Chesterfield County Schools currently has an issue with the tracking of data. Attrition metrics are compiled only yearly or as needed for special projects upon request. This creates an environment where there is no monitoring of the success of retention initiatives. It also creates limited insight into ongoing attrition trends versus historical benchmarks. That means that the school system does not know if attrition is trending higher or lower than previous school years. These realities reduce flexibility in making strategic changes and limits the ability to forecast staffing needs for upcoming school years. For this project, the attrition data of teachers, bus drivers, and instructional assistants were reviewed. These positions were selected based on the current number of vacancies reported by CCPS and the critical nature of their job functions to the operation of the school system. All three groups showed a significant increase in attrition over the course of the 3 previous completed school years. So why are attrition rates increasing in these employee groups? Separation reasons were examined and analyzed to identify why employees in each group were leaving CCPS. All 3 groups showed an increase in employees that had accepted a job outside of the field of education and an increase in employees dissatisfied with working conditions. Additionally, the percentages of retirements in each group dropped from the 2019-2020 school year to the 2021-2022 school year. This means that CCPS is retaining a fewer percentage of employees in each category to the end of their career. More employees are leaving to leave the field of education or because the work environment is not conducive to their needs. This can be a focus for CCPS to retain employees. The tenure of employees that separated from the school system was examined and supports this observation as well. To determine tenure of separated employees, the hire date was subtracted from the separation date to determine years of service with the school system. In examining the service years of employees that separated from CCPS, 56% of teacher separations occurred in the first 5 years of employment. With bus drivers and instructional assistants, this pattern is even more pronounced. 74% of instructional assistant separations and 73% of bus driver separations occur in the first 5 years of employment. If CCPS can retain an employee beyond 5 years, they will likely retain them for their entire career. So what are some things we can take away from this data review as it relates to the need for an attrition data dashboard. An attrition dashboard will ideally need to monitor more than just the general attrition rate of each position. It will need to monitor the tenure of employees that are leaving and why they are separating from CCPS. It will also need to include historical data to provide a baseline and context so that stakeholders know if attrition is trending higher or lower than in previous school years. This data can be coordinated with steps and initiatives being taken to incentivize retention. And the dashboard will allow for the measurement of progress and impact of initiatives, and also allow stakeholders to determine if more needs to be done to retain employees. So how will this dashboard be designed, and what will it look like? Data can be imported from the HRAS into Google Looker to create a user-friendly interface. Rather than presenting users with raw data and tables, the majority of the data will be presented visually in the form of charts and graphs. This is because viewers of visual data can extract global statistics in fractions of a second, and comparisons can be made much quicker with visual cues rather than sets of data. Essentially, we want to tell a story with our data quickly, accurately, and in a way that can be used by the end user. Additionally, Google Looker allows for regression analysis to be performed on the data in order to forecast future attrition needs. I now want to provide some examples of visual data that could be included in the attrition data dashboard. Charts such as the one on this slide can provide periodic updates throughout the school year to determine how current attrition compares to past years. This can allow leaders to determine the success of incentive programs, if more needs to be done, and it can also allow them to identify critical emerging issues that need to be addressed. For example, this slide was compiled with data from January 2023. Upon review, it shows that attrition among bus drivers is trending significantly higher than the previous school year. Stakeholders may be able to use this information to determine that current retention programs are not having the desired effect. Another important element of the data dashboard will be separation reason and exit survey data. This information can provide a call to action that will address the causes of attrition rather than just treating the fallout from employee exits. Charts can be displayed that show the percentage of separations by attrition reason for each targeted position, and those metrics will be able to show specific separation reason percentages for various tenure groups in each position. This will allow the identification of issues leading to attrition, what issues need more investigation, and what needs to be addressed through new initiatives. For example, here we can see that almost 93% of bus driver attrition year to date has 5 years or less of tenure with CCPS. To have any substantial impact on bus driver attrition, new strategies must focus on this group. While the most common reason for separation among this tenure group is personal reasons, leaving for a new job represents over 27% of the attrition within this tenure group. Reviewing this data would allow us to know that further initiatives are needed to make the bus driver position a more appealing choice for employees who are early in their career. There is one significant item that stakeholders should consider before deciding what information to include in an attrition data dashboard. Chesterfield County Public Schools is a public organization and is therefore subject to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. Data included in the dashboard would be considered a record, and once a record is created, it can be requested by any member of the public. This means that it would be available for press inquiries or regular citizens. This could affect the way CCPS is viewed in the community or in the press if attrition data reflects upon the organization negatively. However, I would encourage CCPS decision makers to consider the benefits in addition to the drawbacks. Accessible and usable data can help set organizational goals, expectations, plan effectively, and identify benchmarks so that wins can be properly celebrated. If the data included in the dashboard is useful in making decisions that create real-world improvements within the school system, it should be available for both leaders within CCPS and the public. In order for the attrition dashboard to be successful, I will need partnership from several other people within Chesterfield County Schools. The HRIS senior programmer will be needed to ensure that raw data is pulled from the HRIS at regular intervals. Those intervals can be decided upon by the HRIS Assistant Director and the Chief HR Officer. I would recommend compiling the data at least monthly, if not every 2 weeks. This will allow stakeholders to track trends before they have a critical impact on operations of the school system. Next, a determination must be made on who will have access to the data dashboard. Should it be just employees within human resources? What about division chiefs? How about department directors? All of these roles could have legitimate needs for attrition data. However, the more people that have access to the data, the greater the risk that private information falls into the hands of people that should not have access to it. Finally, a data review process will need to be finalized. I would recommend that this process includes reviews during the biweekly check-ins between the HR data analyst and the HRIS assistant director. In conclusion, data provides the foundational knowledge to make actions taken the most impactful. An attrition data dashboard can allow school leaders to determine where to allocate their limited resources in order to have the most impact on the operations of the school system. The current process limits CCPS's ability to identify emerging trends quickly and accurately, and limits their ability to be proactive in addressing these trends before they result in critical staffing shortages. An attrition data dashboard would address these needs. Regularly updated data can aid in decision-making and track the impact of retention efforts and initiatives. Access to an updated attrition data dashboard would allow leaders to adjust efforts and create more accurate budget and staffing plans for the following school year that are more reflective of CCPS's staffing needs. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, and more than happy to listen to any feedback that you might be able to provide me with.